out a dirty old window. Down below the cars in the city go rushing by. I sit here alone and I wonder why. Friday night and everyone's moved. I can feel the heat, but it's
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Growing Up in America the Way It Is here on
90.1 FM, KPFT, Pacifica Radio.
Thank you so much for being here. My name is Alicia Ramos. I'm a media specialist with Children at Risk, and we are so happy to co-host this morning. And for those of you who are new to our program, Growing Up in America is a discussion on our children, public policy, and how do we as a city and community do when it comes to taking care of all of our kids. This radio show is a production of Children at Risk, a nonprofit organization dedicated to research public policy, law, and collaboration action on behalf of Texas youth. Every week, we aim to fill these 60 minutes with live discussions on the children of Texas with experts on the quality of life for all children. This week, we have our regular segment, Hip Speak, as well as data of the day. And today, I don't know if Nadia can hear me now. The discussed number is 6.7 per thousand. We'll see what number is that about.
Is guests and topics are, we have Gabriela Lopez, the co-founder and co-executive director of Charles Roundtree Bloom Project, The Power of Outdoor Healing. We also have with us Cathy Chen-Arriaga, executive director of Tech Frontier, the partnership with Children's Museum and its impact on children. We have with us also Beth Harp, CEO of Kids Meals, who'll talk about food insecurity. And finally, we have Brian Holzman, the assistant professor, Department of Educational Administration and Human Resource Development at Texas A&M University, who can speak with us about college access.
All right, and up next, we're going to have Gabriela Lopez, co-founder and co-executive director, again, like we mentioned, Charles Roundtree Bloom Project, and that's going to be right after the break.
And we're back, and we have with us Gabriela Lopez, the co-founder and co-executive director of the Charles Roundtree Bloom Project. Great to have you with us. How are you doing this morning, Gabriela?
Hi, good morning. I'm doing wonderful. It's a little cold over here, but we're managing.
Yeah, we're not used to that here in Texas, right? It
No,
hit us
not so
hard
much.
all over the state, it sounds like.
Yeah. So just braving that, but yeah, other than that, wonderful morning. Thank you all for having us.
Awesome. Well, can you give us a little bit of an overview of the Charles Roundtree Bloom Project and its mission?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are actually an outdoor healing justice program for youth and families impacted by incarceration or living in highly criminalized areas in Yanaguana/San Antonio, Texas. So really what that means is we're really focused on creating an environment where youth and families who had that trauma, where they have access to the resources and support they need to heal and thrive.
Definitely. This is an awesome opportunity for a young crowd. Hi, Gabriela. My name is Alicia Ramos. I'm a media specialist here at Children at Risk. And my question is, can you tell us more about the program? I mean, I know you mentioned some of the programs and activities your organization offers through the year.
Yes, absolutely. So we do recruitment towards the end of the year, around September and October, and we usually do that to follow the academic school year. And so once a youth is recruited, that youth and their family are able to be a part of that yearly cohort. And our curriculum reaches the entire family. So for our 5-year-old to 11-year-old youth, we have held in the past indoor and outdoor rock climbing sessions. And we are hopefully continuing to do so. Once you're 11 and up, you are invited to our in and out of state camping trips. We also host year-round art and writing workshops for the entire family. And then last year, we had our first annual Mother's Retreat in the Hill Country. So we try to reach the entire family system. And apart from that, we've also hosted gardening events. We provided agricultural education and did agriculture events, caving, surfing, backpacking. We honestly, if it's outside, we are open to doing it.
Wow, it sounds like these are going to be first-time adventures for a lot of these kids and families. Can you talk a little bit about how outdoor healing supports the children and the families impacted by incarceration?
Yes, absolutely. And yeah, you're 100% right. For many of our families and youth, especially when it comes to our wonderful out of the state trips, it's like they're really transformative, and for a lot of them, it is the first time. But yeah, we do this under the understanding that there are major losses the family faces when a caregiver is incarcerated. There's financial resources, and then most importantly, time spent together that's lost. The person incarcerated is often, subjected to abuse while incarcerated. And then the parent on the outside often has to work hard to do the job of two parents. So it deeply impacts the family. And we're focused on filling those gaps and giving those families the space to process that experience, whether it was in the past or currently happening. Learn how to communicate or recommunicate as a family. Learn how to be together in a safe space, in a low stakes place like the outdoors. And then we would like to offer the mental and physical benefits of spending time in nature. So we've seen some really deep impacts on our families and also more importantly our youth with these experiences.
Now, Gabriela, I'm pretty sure you have amazing stories that, you have seen her from our young community about the whole, programs that they go with you guys. But what changes or transformations have you seen in the families who participate in your programs?
Yes, absolutely. So something that seems really simple, but a lot of our families cherish our events because it's uninterrupted time just to be with each other. And what I've found out is, as simple as it sounds, it's actually really radical to give families time, worry-free time, where they feel safe to bond and communicate. So we've seen an overall closeness in the families that go through our program. As far as our youth, and this is as young as 5 years old, they reported having better self-esteem, deeper relationships with their parents, their siblings, deeper relationships with peers. They are often placed in these cohorts where they're meeting each other for the first time. And, by the end of the year, they have really great friendships. And then a more clear sense of purpose. I think when you provide a young person and their family, environmental and social justice education, and they reach a level of awareness where then they then become, advocates, and advocacy is definitely giving our families a sense of purpose.
Gabriela, I'm thinking about the children and the families that are in the programs. What advice would you give, not just while they're in the program, but when they exit, how to still stay engaged and so forth?
Yeah, one thing I like to say, and I have spent my entire life here in San Antonio, is that it doesn't take much to create a really special moment. And we're grateful to live in San Antonio in Texas, where access to the hill country and access to these really beautiful, scenic outdoor spaces are relatively close and relatively easy. We have a lot of parks in the neighborhoods, and I think our city's working towards initiatives even having more outdoor spaces. So the advice I would give is that sometimes it's as easy as taking a walk together at a park, or sometimes it's as easy as, taking a camping trip towards like Guadalupe River, a 1 hour drive, to still instill that closeness and togetherness that they may not receive from our program anymore. And one of the wonderful things from our program is we encourage like lifelong participation. So we've had youth that joined when they were 6 years old, and they're now 10 years old, and we've had we've had youth that have kind of graduated high school and they're coming back wanting to be interns, or they're wanting to volunteer for our camping events. So we also want this to be a community where our families can see us as a resource, from here on out.
Definitely. I mean, you guys have amazing places to go out there. The scenarios that you guys have in the hill country are amazing, Gabriela. So you guys are lucky, definitely to have
Mhm.
the amazing views. But before we finish, Gabriela, I want to ask you: are there any coming up events or anything you would like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, definitely. The first thing I would encourage anybody who is interested in, collaborating with us, or if there is a parent that's thinking this would be wonderful for their family, to follow us on Instagram. It is CR Bloom Project. That's our Instagram handle. That's when we announce, our new recruiting year, any events that are open to the public or volunteer opportunities. We're actually also having a really fun fitness fundraiser in April here in San Antonio and an ongoing campaign to raise funds for our spring break camping trip. We're going to Colorado Bend State Park towards the latter end of our Texas spring break. So, yeah, there's a couple of things that are moving for us, and we're really just seeking, of course, more families to serve, more organizations to collaborate with, and funding, to keep this sustaining itself and going as long as possible.
Gabriela, just, thinking back over the years of doing all this work, what would you say has been the most exciting activity that the kids and families have done?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many. I just got like a flash of images to my mind. My favorite, and it's definitely for our 5 and 11-year-olds who do the rock climbing. They do like an indoor rock climbing where it's really kind of low stakes and very safe, but we've transitioned them to outdoor rock climbing. And I've seen, 6-year-olds scaling a wall that I could never get on. So I think for me, the exciting thing is seeing how fast bravery builds within our youth and how they're so willing to try new things, and then how they take those experiences and like just build their confidence and apply it to other like real world activities like in school or in sports or in how they can, hold conversations. So yeah, I've seen some exciting things that have really built confidence, like scaling a wall, like zip lining. Like we've backpacked in Colorado before, and I've had teenagers say, like, I went to school and I told people, like, if I can backpack 6 days in Colorado, like I can do anything. So it's really wonderful to see that confidence being built.
Amazing, amazing. Gabriela Lopez, co-founder and co-executive director of Charles Roundtree Bloom Project. Thank you so much for being here. We hope to hear from you next on our next show. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you all. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And our next guest after the break is going to be Cathy Chen-Arriaga, executive director of Tech Frontier. And we are back. And now we have Cathy Chen-Arriaga, Executive Director of Tech Frontier. Cathy, thank you so much for being here in our show, Growing Up in America. How are you today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. And well, Cathy, I want to start by, for you, can you tell us about Fab El Paso and Tech Frontier and its mission in the community?
Sure. So it's actually Cathy, but
Cathy.
it's totally okay because my mother-in-law also calls me Katie from time to time. So
I love it. Okay.
I know the TH sound is difficult for Spanish speakers, but no worries at all. So thank you so much. I'm really excited to talk a little bit about Fab Lab El Paso. So Fab Lab is the K-12 creative STEM program at Tech Frontier. And our mission over the past decade has been to increase accessibility and create community engagement with hands-on project-based learning or also known as maker-based learning, with a heavy focus on tech enablement for our local community.
Thanks, Cathy. And, I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about the partnership you all have developed with La Nube. And I feel fortunate enough that I've visited La Nube. That's the Children's Museum in El Paso, and just wanted to hear a bit about, how this partnership started and what your team contributed to it.
Oh, absolutely. So we were so fortunate because we were invited on as partners from the very beginning. I remember when the founding executive director for La Nube, Paul Courtenard, who's actually now at the Ontario Science Centre in Canada, approached us for like a blue sky scenario, blue sky vision of a makerspace, and for integrated programming at La Nube. We were super excited to be able to just dream and imagine what our ideal space would be like. And we collaborated really thoughtfully and deeply every step of the way with them. So everything from co-branded programming to developing a value-based pedagogy. Like we were very strategic in just voicing what our shared values were. And we even fabricated some of the exhibits and furnishing at the museum to showcase digital tooling, fabrication, and different types of skills. So I don't know if you remember, but on the fourth floor, there's a really large exhibit called Connected that showcases different circuits and different concepts within electrical engineering. We were actually the exhibit designer and fabricator for that entire wall.
Wow, that's impressive.
Definitely. I'm
Yeah.
amazed. I love anything
Yeah.
that has to do with technology.
Mhm.
Now, what was this partnership important for expanding access to STEAM education, and of course, what does this mean for the region?
Sure. So I think the STEAM education landscape and honestly the education ecosystem at large is pretty siloed and fractured. Everyone just sort of does their own thing, right? And also institutionally, formal education is under a lot of pressure right now. And so I think that what that means is going to be more barriers that will be created for self-preservation. And so this high profile partnership between Fab Lab and La Nubis sort of serves as a counter example to, the isolationism that I think we're going to see a lot in the education sphere. And I think it's a reminder that if we scaffold our resources as nonprofits and as organizations and come together, we can really make that 1+1 equals 3 happen for our community and create like positive alignment and amplification.
And, Cathy, when you think of what Fab Lab brings to, not just communities, but children in particular, and thinking of their future and exposing them really to STEAM education, what impact have you seen this partnership have on children's interest in regards to technology?
So I think we're really fortunate within, the La Nube Museum that we get to create moments of magic that is hard for formal classrooms to create. So, for example, we have seen that this partnership enabled parental and familial involvement in STEM and STEAM learning. And as you all know, El Paso has amazing family values, and the family support network has long been like a secret ingredient to the success of our community, right? So seeing the parents be present and involved in their kids' learning and seeing how that reciprocates in the child's enthusiasm for what they're doing because they get to do it alongside their caretaker has been a game changer in like creating the cultural shifts that's necessary to to embrace the future for our region.
Now, I want to know, and we all think all parents listening right now, we know the importance of hands-on, right, Cathy? Like when it comes to, being there and participate.
Mm-hmm.
How does hands-on, especially learning like what Fab Lab and La Nube provides, different from traditional classroom STEAM education?
Yeah, so I think beyond the fact that of course the parent gets to be there or siblings, you get this multi-age learning experience. So there's more opportunities for you to mentor other participants, right, who might be younger or who might be struggling. So it creates a lot of empathy bridging that way. Makerspace learning is also designed to like complement and supplement formal learning in the classroom. So we're able to do what formal education cannot because of time, resource, administrative, and like even legislative constraints. So we get the fun job of creating excitement, engagement, getting the students to that aha moment. And hopefully that can create really positive momentum for when the students are back in the classroom with their teachers.
And I can truly attest to that when at La Nube with my kiddos. That interactive learning was, I feel like, what kept them engaged. And so I definitely can see that as well. Thinking more about broader implications, what do you see as the biggest challenges in expanding STEM and digital fabrication, education statewide?
I think one of the biggest challenges facing us at this moment in time, I would have to say, is just the volatility and uncertainty around what are some of the benchmarks going to be for measuring the success and outcomes of programs. I think that's really just, not really being able to know or forecast ahead of time what we need to work towards, I think is going to be very challenging. And for me personally, I do firmly believe that talent and skills incubation is going to be an evergreen goal for our nation, for our nation's economic well-being, social well-being. And so, I hope that we can, again, create more alignment across different sectors, right? K-12, higher ed, industry, and just, try to suture it all together so that the community can really benefit from a wholesome approach to STEM and digital skilling, rather than taking it piecemeal.
Awesome. And before we wrap up with the interview, I want to ask you, what advice would you give to other organizations or communities looking to create similar hands-on STEAM experiences?
Yeah, so my advice is partnership, partnership, partnership. I think that because of resource scarcity that all of us have to face in the nonprofit world, and as downward economic pressures really make us, look hard at our bottom line, I hope that other individuals who are thinking about doing this type of work keep an open mind to the fact that we really are stronger together, and better together. And so any opportunities there are to complement and supplement and support existing initiatives, pooling resources instead of cannibalizing or instead of duplicating efforts or, just creating more barriers to entry, we should be trying to tear that down. And so reaching out, being good partners, being equitable partners, and coming from a place of trust and values is really, I would say that that's the biggest piece of advice that I would have.
Well, thank you so much, Cathy. We were so fortunate to have you with us today on the radio. We appreciate all the work you're doing and look forward to learning more. And this is Nadia Salibi, Chief Impact Officer at Children at Risk, and we'll be right back with our next guest. Welcome, everyone, and we're back. This is Nadia Salibi, Chief Impact Officer at Children at Risk, and we are so pleased to have our guest, Dr. Christopher Kulesza from Rice University. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Glad to have you here. And I'm gonna go ahead and read our data for the day,
Sure,
and then
go ahead.
kind of jump into that. Okay, so we have, for those of you that remember from the beginning, we set a number 6.7 per 1,000. And so what this is the number of pre-K students expelled per year. It's much higher than the K through 12 population. So Dr. Kulesza, this number sounds high. What are some factors that lead to this increase?
Yeah, so there's quite a few. So for one, there is a bit of a gender bias with this. We find that preschool boys end up getting expelled at a rate that's about 4 times higher than girls. And there's a couple of other things, too, that we can take a look at. Those institutions or those providers that tend to be for-profit or religious are far more likely to expel students versus those that are public. And when the school reports that they have regular access to counselors and mental health professionals for this young age, they end up reporting much lower rates of expulsion than those that do not. But when you're talking about students at this age, it's not very common that a school will say that they have regular ability to tap into counseling or psychological services. And really with this, it's, you have a class with, 2, 3-year-olds that are oftentimes very high energy, and teachers are only able to do so much. So oftentimes, especially if they're a program that relies on private tuition dollars or whatnot, they're going to look at the overall environment, and rather than being able to always deal with it, they're just going to say, hey, this student doesn't fit with our environment. Of course, that too is complicated because we know for a fact that it is so important for students this age to be able to socialize with their peers and with teachers so that they can develop their language skills and develop their sociability. So, while at the end of the day, it's so important, they're still getting expelled at a very high rate, as we mentioned, higher than even the K through 12 students.
Good morning, Dr. Kulesza. This is Alicia Ramos, media specialist here at Our Children at Risk. And to be honest, when I hear the number, I have a almost 2-year-old son. So he sounded pretty, okay, what's going on? And what are, the factors that lead to this increase? Because I'm pretty sure that's the question that most of the parents that are listening right now are questioning. I mean, you already mentioned some, but what are some of the other factors that lead, I guess, to this increase?
Yeah, well, one of the things, too, we really have to consider, of course, is COVID-19, that we're talking about student populations, at least for this particular cohort, where socialization was a bit different because we ended up having students that were in lockdown in those young years. Mm-hmm. So a lot of the students right now that are in that 3 to 4 age, they ended up being born in the midst of the pandemic or just slightly before. So there ends up being a question about whether or not we're seeing a little bit of a difference in terms of the behavior with these students because of that difference in sociability. But again, too, I think also that there's just a very different pressure with a lot of these teachers, especially in these providers where they're looking for private tuition dollars to try to create an environment that is as smooth sailing as possible so that they're able to recruit more, because a lot of those private institutions ended up not doing very well during COVID-19. And in fact, even like within Houston and Texas, we're only just now starting to see the same number of childcare providers that we had before COVID-19 now, because so many of them closed. So it's really important for them to be able to get more and more students and say, hey, we're not having problems here.
Wow. And, kind of thinking on the other end of the spectrum for the parents, do you have any, advice or thoughts or insights on what parents can do?
I would definitely say for parents to find a school that is very supportive of the child, and also be able to find a school that is really willing to work with you. And of course, it's always important, if you notice anything, to talk to your pediatrician and your healthcare providers. And it's totally fine to be able to seek a counselor.
What if?
But also on the opposite end too, we also have to recognize that these are 2, 3, 4-year-olds, and they're going to have a lot of energy, and they're still learning. So not just on the parent side, but also on the child care provider side, that we have to give these kids some latitude for sure.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Dr. Christopher Kulesza from Rice University. It's always a pleasure having you here like every Wednesday morning. It's good to hear from you.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you. And now I want to say definitely, Nadia, that this segment is one of my favorites from every week. It's called, this coming up is coming Hip Speak. I don't know if you have heard this part before, but this is really interesting and catchy for me because we get to learn new words. I'm a millennial, but there's some words that I have no idea what they mean, especially with my nephews, and they use these words that I'm lost and I feel older than I should feel. So for this segment, we have Rebecca George. that is joining us today again for this segment, Hip Speak. Rebecca, how are you?
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
I'm doing great. And well, we want to start definitely. I want to start with for you to tell us the words that you have in mind, and me and Nadia are gonna try to guess what they mean.
Okay, so the first one I have for you is it's not older, but I would say it's semi-recent. It's the word demure.
You want to go on that, Nadia?
Yeah, I mean, so I have seen some, social media-esqueness about it in regards to people posting on it. But to be quite frank, I don't really fully know what it is. I'm going to take a guess here. I'm going to say it's being like smooth and like suave in a way in how you kind of present yourself. I don't know if I'm anywhere near the right answer.
Okay.
Are we
Do you have any other
close?
guesses? Or
I have to agree with Nadia. I'm not. I think something smooth. The worst sounds like that. Just give us the answer.
so the word demure kind of started trending after this TikTok was posted, and it means basically someone that's like very reserved and modest and kind of shy. And in the context, it was used like something that's not too loud and kind of like very like mindful and very like almost professional in a sense.
Okay, so kind of close, right?
Yeah,
or
we're
no,
close.
not much.
And I know you have another one for us, right?
Yes, I do. So this one is the phrase is crashing out.
Crashing out.
Crashing out.
Oh, that means something bad. I think so. I mean,
I'm just gonna guess like if you're crashing out, like you're kind of like tired, like you're shutting down, you're gonna just kind of not like go to sleep, kind of.
I want to add depressed, maybe. Kind of, you're down, sad.
Actually, you guys hit the nail on the head exactly. So
wow.
At least for me and my friends, when you say like I'm crashing out, it kind of means you're freaking out, you're panicking, you're like also like maybe extremely tired. You're like, I need to go to bed, I need to go to sleep because I've been awake for too long. That's what crashing out means, at least to us amongst me and my friends. And I think definitely on the internet, you'll definitely see it on social media, on Twitter and stuff like that.
I'm definitely adding that word in my vocabulary now. And you have one more, right?
Yes, I do. Okay, this one is called doom scrolling. If you've ever heard of it?
No, doom scrolling.
Doom scrolling.
I'm just gonna guess, just literally taking the two words dooms and scrolling as like searching online for like doomsday like scenarios.
Okay.
No. I think I'll pass on this one. I'll let you do it.
Okay. So doom scrolling is basically when you're in that kind of never-ending cycle of just scrolling on social, like mindlessly scrolling, like you've been scrolling for hours and you haven't even realized it's been hours of you scrolling on social media, where you're just scrolling and scrolling. And a lot of the times it's like kind of things that are kind of negative, like maybe on the news or something like that. But usually, at least amongst me and my friends, it's a lot of just like, oh, I've been scrolling for an hour. I probably should go outside and like breathe air.
Like we all do, right?
Oh, definitely. So,
well, thank you so much. I feel like we just learned, I just learned 3 new words that, I'm going to definitely try to use at some point in this week. But we appreciate having you with us, Rebecca George. Please enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you again.
Thank you so much.
And this is Nadia Salibi, Chief Impact Officer from Children at Risk, and we will be back after this short break.
And we are back. And now we have Beth Harp. She's the CEO for Kids and Meals. Good morning, Beth. How are you?
Good morning.
It's so great to having you today. Thank you so much for being in our show. We love to talk to you. This is not your first time, so you're familiar with our show. And
Yes.
I want to start, Beth, with for you to tell us a little bit more about what Kids Meals is and what you guys do exactly.
Yes. So Kids Meals is based in Houston and Harrison, Montgomery counties. And we are the nation's only home delivery service for preschool age children that are living food insecure, many living in severe poverty. And what we do is we utilize volunteers, people just like me and you that have a heart for helping children. And we partner with them. They come to our facility, they make fresh, healthy meals for children each weekday. And we actually deliver out those meals to their homes, apartments, and trailers. And right now, we're in 56 zip codes between the two counties, between Harrison and Montgomery counties. And we deliver out about 9,300 healthy lunches each weekday directly to their homes.
Wow, that is huge. That's a huge number. Can you speak to us a little bit more about, what data is saying, how bad the situation is around hunger in our area in Houston? And try to, maybe if you have any data on that so we can understand the magnitude of hunger, especially amongst our most little ones.
Unfortunately, since COVID, we just really have seen the numbers soar. Prior to COVID, through Feeding America, we knew there was about 26,000 children on any given day that are 5 and under in Harris County that are living food insecure. And since that time, the most recent estimates that are out that every day in our community, an estimated 100,000 plus preschool age children live unsure of their next meal. And unfortunately, that's 1 out of 4 preschool age children. And it is so critical that we help nourish these young minds and bodies by providing meals. We also provide resources to families and just hope to children and families facing food insecurity, because we're bridging a gap. And the gap is that those little ones, 5 and under, they're not qualified yet for the free breakfast, free lunch, the school-based meals. Many times they're not in the preschool programs where they're getting those meals. And there's just a gap in services. So Kids Meals is addressing that gap and making sure not only that we have a healthy lunch in those little hands every weekday, but that we also supplement with groceries for the families as we have available, as well as fresh produce, because we all know that produce is so much more expensive than the other more affordable foods that aren't as good for you.
Definitely. Now, Beth, definitely. Kids Meals is an organization you mentioned it, that is always looking for extra hands, like us, like me, like Nadia, like you. Can you tell us the importance of volunteering, and obviously, how can we volunteer and help with this important cause?
Thank you so much. Yes, Kids Meals simply doesn't exist without volunteers. I'm in our facility right now, and we have close to 60 people in here, people from companies, team building together, individuals coming together to make healthy meals for kids. So we need volunteers on a daily basis, anywhere from 60 to 100 volunteers in our current facility. But we've really tried to also create other opportunities that people that can get involved, not only at our facility making meals, but we have a whole DIY and volunteer from your home and your company. And those opportunities are all listed on our website at kidsmealsinc.org. You can actually prepare the meals off-site, and we give you instructions on how to do that. So great team building opportunities off-site as well. And, together, I know with volunteers, we can create a stronger, healthier future for our community's children. And our motto is no child should go hungry ever.
And Beth, just kind of on that same point there, when you think of the meals that kids get at school, then you think of, okay, when they're not in school, whether it's summer or after school, a lot of times there's no other source of meals. So with spring break coming, how does Kids Meals prepare to help kids that might not count on one of the meals they usually receive at school?
Right. We are ramping up right now, getting ready for spring break as we do all the holidays, because anytime the school-age siblings of our little ones are home, we feed all the children in the home because you simply cannot pull up in a van to deliver a meal in front of someone's home and you have a 2-year-old standing there hungry and an 8 and a 10-year-old standing there hungry and not feed that child as well. So our numbers will double during holidays and during the summer. So, looking at anywhere, from about 16,000 a day. So we need help with volunteers and anybody that wants to donate to help us. We can feed a child for less than $2 a day, and that's our all-in organization cost.
Now, speaking on that, you mentioned something really important, Beth. I mean, unfortunately, we have, these times of the year, spring break, summer, where kids don't count with a meal, if you want to call it, that they receive in school. Tell me a little bit more about any upcoming events that you guys are preparing. I know you mentioned that you guys are almost ready to prepare for spring break, but do you have any coming up events that you would like to tell the audience about?
Well, one thing I'd love to tell you about is, right before COVID, we just saw the numbers getting larger and larger. And then after COVID, I told you they're up to 100,000 children going hungry in our city every day. So we set forth a vision. And that vision was to feed at least 26,000 children a day by the year 2031. So, guys, we are building a building. And we are going to be in that new building in the Spring Branch area in summer of this year. And it's going to more than quadruple our capacity to feed more children, to help more families with resources, to help them build better lives. And we could not be more thrilled. We're located at Hammerly and Hollister, and anybody can drive by and see the wonderful construction happening. But in our current facility, we're locked in, if you will, is with our capacity to store food and our capacity to have more volunteers. So we are just so thrilled and grateful that we're going to be able to do this and just really empower families to have better lives.
Thank you so much, Beth. And just one more question. So there's no limit age, right, for volunteers? We can have, like group of kids that want to help out, or do you guys have any restrictions on that?
Well, for in our facility, we only have 8 and up, and that's just so that they're table height. The table and make a sandwich. But I said, there's also DIY opportunities where people can go to our website at kidsmealsinc.org and they can look on there and do those volunteer opportunities from home. And also, one thing that is so impactful is anybody of any age, little kids, can decorate brown bags for our kiddos. You guys know better than anybody. Poverty can be so heavy. And when somebody takes time to decorate a brown bag with a healthy lunch in it and it's delivered to them each day, it instills hope. It lets them know that we're there for you. Somebody took time to care for you, and it really makes a child's day. So decorating brown bags is something so simple, but it makes a huge difference. And with 9,000 kids a day we just can't keep up with the decorated bags. So we always appreciate that.
Definitely, Beth. Thank you so much for everything you do for our community. And thank you for giving us ideas. I mean, spring break is coming, and I'm pretty sure parents are going to have plenty of ideas on how can their kiddos and obviously them contribute with this important cause. Thank you so much, Beth.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And up next, we're going to have Brian Holzman, Assistant Professor of the Department of Education, Administration, and Human Resource Development at Texas A&M University, coming up.
Drink this, smoke free, party all night. Come back, girl, what's up? Oh, oh, oh. Don't you want me like I want you, baby? Don't you need me like I need you now? Sleep tomorrow, but tonight go crazy. All you gotta do is just meet me at the
We're joined by Alicia Ramos. We are thrilled to have Brian Holzman, the Assistant Professor of Department of Educational Administration and Human Resources from Texas A&M. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm great. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're excited to be able to talk a little bit about, college access. And, we wanted to start by asking you about the different research that you've been conducting involving, education, and what motivates you to write about these topics?
Yeah. So my motivation comes from my family. Both my parents emphasized the importance of a quality education when I was growing up. In particular, my mother, she grew up in a very low income household and, attended low income schools, and she attended college. She made it to college, but she never actually completed. So, when I do research about education, I think about uh, families like hers. Aside from that, during college, I took a sociology course by a top education scholar, and that course showed me how education can structure many life opportunities in the U.S.
I love it. Thank you so much, Brian. This is Alicia Ramos with Children at Risk Media Specialist. Thank you so much for being here. And I went to your page and I saw the different research that you have worked on. Amazing, by the way. I want to talk about, well, can you tell us about the Emerge College Access Program? It's one of the research that you have worked with HIZ data.
Sure. So previously, I worked at the Houston Education Research Consortium, which is part of the Kinder Institute at Rice University. And HERC partners with Houston area school districts on research projects. And when I was there, we conducted an evaluation of the Emerge College Access Program. So Emerge is a Houston area program that operates in many school districts, and the focus is on helping students from low income or first generation backgrounds access highly selective institutions that match their credentials. So it's really focused on some of the top achieving students in Houston area school districts. And the issue is that many students, especially those who come from low income first generation backgrounds, tend to undermatch. Undermatch is when students attend colleges less competitive than the qualifications may allow. So this would be a student that is in the top percentile of their high school graduating class that could go to Harvard, Yale, or Rice, but they end up going to a community college or no college at all. And that's important because highly selective institutions, public and private, they tend to offer more resources that can support students through graduation. And they also have higher labor market returns upon graduation. And so Emerge tries to help students attend institutions that match their high academic credentials. And it does this through a multi-year program in which students meet with a high school guidance counselor, focus on Emerge students bi-weekly for about 2 years. And so in these after-school sessions, they cover everything from financial aid to how to search for colleges, how to apply to colleges, how to develop personal statements, and so on. The program also takes them on a trip to tour colleges and universities the summer before the senior year. And so, it's a very intensive program. It's also delivered in small groups. So it's delivered at students' high school in cohorts of 3 to 12 students. And so we looked at the effects of Emerge. We focused on one cohort that began the Emerge program in spring of 2017 as sophomores, and we tracked them to high school college enrollments. And we found that students that were in Emerge were much more likely to attend highly selective institutions. They were also more likely to apply to highly selective institutions in the first place. And so, we found that these effects are quite large. And, that is telling, it shows us that social capital, these intense personal relationships can really matter for students and help reduce academic undermatch.
Wow, thank you so much for that overview, Brian. I wanted to switch gears a little, but it's still related to actually what you just talked about, which is the research you've done around race, immigration, and language. And if there was any key findings or even results that you were surprised about that you could share with us and our listeners?
Sure. So as we know, Houston has a lot of immigrants. It's an immigration hub. And, to serve immigrant students, Houston ISD operates 2 schools that really focus on recent immigrant students. They're meant as temporary transition schools. So students attend these schools for about 1 to a max of 2 years once they arrive in the U.S. And the goal is to help them learn English quickly. and also to acculturate to the American system of education, but it's primarily to focus on English language acquisition. So one of these schools, Las Americas, we did a number of studies on, and we looked at who attends these schools and also the effects of these schools on a variety of academic outcomes. So first, we find that the students that tend to attend, Las Americas, tend to be lower achieving. They tend to come from more disadvantaged backgrounds. But despite that difference, newcomer students who attend Las Americas are much more likely to see increased levels of English language proficiency. They're more likely to reclassify from English learner to English proficient, and they're also scoring higher on English 1 end of course exams. So Las Americas is unique because it is intensely focused on English language acquisition. Many of the teachers are trained and have certification to teach English as a second language. They also provide a lot of wraparound supports. So for example, the principal at the time partnered with different organizations to ensure that there was a mental health counselor or social worker at the school every day. They also provided broader support for the school community. They held clothing drives for families that didn't have appropriate clothing for Houston weather. So this, intense English language pedagogical format is really helpful for students that are new to the country and new learning English, and it could be replicated in other contexts that serve a lot of.
Definitely. And I think we're going back and forth now, Brian, because I really want to go back to the, to the college preparation. It's one key important in your studies. But tell me about the importance, I guess, is for students to be exposed to those courses before going to college. We find out, and even the recent research that Children at Risk had regarding, schools in our area, how important it's for young kids now in high school to get exposed to college education at that age.
Yeah, so we know that a lot of students enter college and they're just not ready for that rigorous curriculum. A lot of students will end up in developmental education. So these are kind of courses that help students catch up to what they should have completed during high school. Unfortunately, developmental education courses often do not count towards a student's major, and they will often extend their time to degree as well as the cost. So we've done some research in the past that looks at the role of taking AP and IB coursework in high school. So in a study that tracked Texas students for about 16 years from about 8th grade to age 30, we found that students that took more AP and IB courses in high school were more likely to complete a bachelor's degree. But interestingly, these associations were much larger for students that were lower performing on the 8th grade standardized test. So this might suggest that broadening access to advanced coursework could be helpful, particularly for students that come in with lower skill sets. Of course, we must be careful about how this is implemented in practice. So, if a school decides to broaden access to AP and IB coursework to more students, especially those that are lower achieving, they must do so in a conscientious way that can support those students that are lower achieving. For example, they might want to embed teachers' aides in classrooms to help students that might be struggling more.
Thanks, Brian. That's your wealth of research is super informative to all of us in the community, and we appreciate all you're doing. And I want you to stay on the radio for a little bit because we are going to jump into our Jeopardy session. And so we have a couple of light, kind of questions to ask you. Definitely not focused on education likely, but on other sort of pop culture topics. So are you ready for our first question?
Okay, I'll try.
There's no wrong answer. Trust me. All right. So the first question is, if you could have any superpower for a day, what would it be and how would you use it?
I'd probably want to teleport. I like traveling, but I don't, like waiting at airports. If I could teleport anywhere in the world, I think that would be pretty fun.
That's a good answer. I love it. Okay, I'm next. Now, if you could design your dream treehouse, what's one must thing that it has to have? Like a feature, I don't know, like a cool chair or a cool TV, or what is it?
I don't know, some sort of technology. I spend a lot of time on the internet. I like to watch TV, and so some sort of technology would be great. If it was high up in the canopy, some sort of swing could be pretty fun.
Thanks, Brian. Thanks for playing with us. Actually, you had some really great answers. We appreciate you being on our show today. And again, we welcome you for a future episode. So thank you to Brian Holzman, Assistant Professor, Department of Educational Administration and Human Resources at Texas A&M.
Great. Thank you so much for hosting me.
All right. So thanks so much for listening, all our listeners, for Growing Up in America by Children at Risk. If you enjoyed our discussion, please tune in next Wednesday during our new airtime, the 9 to 10 a.m. slot that you're listening to right now. And be sure to check out new episodes of our podcast each Monday at noon. So this is Nadia and
This is Alicia. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
bye.
I hopped off the plane at LAX with a dream, my cardigan. Welcome to the land of fame excess. Am I gonna fit in? Jumped in the cab, here I am for the first time. Look to my right and I see the Hollywood